Have you ever found yourself, maybe mid-conversation, trying to pin down exactly how two things are different? Or, why one is clearly better or maybe worse than another, and you just kind of stumble?
Oh, absolutely. It's like the perfect word is right there, but you can't quite grab it.
Exactly. Well, today we're taking a deep dive into something fundamental but fascinating: the world of comparisons in English.
And it's really so much more than just knowing bigger or smallest, isn't it?
Definitely.
Our goal today is to equip you with the tools to precisely express similarities, differences, quantities. Basically, turning those complex thoughts into, well, crystal clear statements.
Yeah, making things sharp and impactful.
We'll unpack the different ways English lets us compare things from, simple adjective tweaks to more nuanced phrases, and we'll show why getting these right isn't just about grammar points. It seriously boosts your communication.
And we've got some great source material to illustrate this, starting with some pretty surprising stuff about athletes. It's a perfect way in because it immediately uses the very language we're talking about.
It really does. Let's jump in.
Okay, so our sources kick off with a look at athletic performance, specifically comparing older athletes with younger ones.
Which is a fantastic starting point.
Hmm.
Think about sports talk phrases like breaking records, strongest in the world, greatest increases in speed.
Right.
Which of those do you instinctively connect with young athletes and which with, say, masters athletes?
Well, my first thought, honestly, is that breaking records and those big speed gains, that's for the younger generation, the ones at their peak.
That's the common assumption,
Yeah.
yeah. But this is where our sources get interesting and challenge that a bit.
Yeah, I saw that. There's a listening exercise mentioned that asks, older athletes are getting faster and fitter. And, well, it turns out it's actually true.
It is. And here's where the precision of comparison really matters. Our source points out that runners aged 50 and over are, get this, speeding up more rapidly than young runners.
More rapidly. Wow.
Not less rapidly, as you might expect, more rapidly. And it gets even more specific. Women aged 60 to 68 running the New York Marathon, they're improving, on average, by 4 minutes faster each year.
4 minutes, not 2.
4 minutes. It's a really significant rate of improvement.
Okay, that is surprising. So connecting this back to our English focus, it highlights just how essential these comparative structures are, right?
Exactly. You simply cannot convey that kind of surprising data faster,
Yeah.
more rapidly, greater increases without them.
These aren't just abstract rules. They're the tools you need to actually describe what's happening to share these kinds of insights accurately.
Precisely. It's about being able to say, okay, X isn't just faster than Y, it's much faster, or X improved twice as much as Y. Let's dig into how English actually builds these comparisons.
Okay, so the foundation is comparing adjectives.
Right. And our sources lay out the basic rules. Good to refresh, because even small slips can muddy the meaning. For short, one-syllable adjectives you usually add for the comparative. Hard becomes...
Like harder.
Exactly. And est for the superlative, so the hardest, pretty straightforward.
Sounds intuitive, like tall, taller, the tallest.
Mm-hmm. And using and est feels direct, punchy. Think the strongest in the world.
Mm.
It lands differently than, say, the most strong, which just sounds a bit clunky.
Yeah, less natural.
Now, if that one-syllable word ends in E, like nice,
Just add are nicer and esty, the nicest.
perfect. And the spelling rule, one syllable ends in vowel plus consonant.
Ah, double the consonant, right? Like fat becomes fatter, the fattest, or big, bigger.
Exactly. That double consonant keeps the vowel sound short and correct. It's a small detail, but important for pronunciation and spelling.
Makes sense. What about longer words?
Okay, two-syllable adjectives ending in Y, like happy, you change that Y to us to II for the comparative,
Happier.
and aest for the superlative.
The happiest. Got it.
But for most other adjectives, with two or more syllables, ones that don't end in "-ni", we switch tactics. We use more for the comparative.
Like more enjoyable.
Exactly. Not enjoyabler, which would be a mouthful, and for the superlative, the most enjoyable. Gets things cleaner.
Okay, that covers the basic patterns, but English always has exceptions, doesn't it? The irregulars.
Ah, yes, the curveballs. And they're super common, so you really need to know them. Getting these wrong is a quick way to sound, well, non-native.
Like good.
Good becomes better for comparative, and the best for superlative.
Not gooder or the goodest.
Definitely not.
And bad.
Worse, and the
Yeah.
worst.
Right. And far gives us further or farther, and the furthest or the farthest. Memorizing these isn't just about rules. It's crucial for sounding fluent and clear. Imagine saying, more good people understand, but it just doesn't sound right.
No, it really stands out. Okay, so standard structure. Comparatives usually take,
Hmm.
man, like younger runners are faster than older runners. Yes, then is the key connector there. And superlatives. They pick one out from a group.
Like, the Olympics is probably the most exciting sports event, identifying the peak.
Precisely. And we can add nuance even to superlatives. You don't always have to say the best. You could say one of the best athletes.
Right.
Still elite,
Yeah.
but acknowledging others.
Or use a number like the third fastest time.
Exactly. Or even swap the for a possessive my best score, her greatest achievement. It just specifies who's best or greatest we're talking about.
That's useful. Okay, shifting gears slightly from qualities, adjectives to actions, adverbs. How do we compare how things are done, like running more quickly?
Good question. For most adverbs, especially those ending in miltly, it mirrors the longer adjectives. You use more for the comparative and most for the superlative.
So, like our athletes speeding up more rapidly.
Exactly. Or someone improved the most significantly. That's the common pattern.
But there are exceptions here too, I bet.
There are. Adverbs that look the same with their adjectives think fast, hard, early, late. With those, you treat them like short adjectives. Just add er or est.
Ah, okay. So that's why the source said women run 4 minutes faster each year, not more fastly.
Precisely. Faster works as both adjective and adverb comparative here.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, adverbs have irregulars too, often matching the adjectives. Well becomes
Like better, best,
badly.
worse, worse.
Right. And far is further furthest, little is less least. Nailing these adverb comparisons is just as key for sounding natural.
Okay, we've covered more and most, better, faster. But what if we want to express the opposite? The lack of something going downwards on the scale.
That's where less and the least come in. Essential tools. You might say maybe that film was less interesting than I expected.
Okay.
Or for the absolute bottom, that was probably the least enjoyable part of the trip. It signals the minimum point, or a smaller quantity or lower quality. Just as vital as showing increase.
Right, showing both sides. And can we, like, dial the comparison up or down? Make it stronger or maybe a bit softer?
Absolutely. This is where you add real flavor and precision. To emphasize a difference, put words like much, a lot, far, or even before the comparative.
Like the source said, older women showed much greater increases. Not just greater, but significantly so.
Exactly. That much adds real weight. In more formal contexts or for smaller differences, you might use slightly, a bit, considerably, or significantly.
So slightly faster versus considerably faster.
Precisely. Just one word of caution. You can't use very directly with a comparative form.
Ah, right. You wouldn't say very faster.
No, that's a really common flag. You'd say much faster or a lot faster.
Good tip. Okay, what if things are the same or almost the same? How do we show equality?
Great question. We use the structure as, so as plus adjective adverb plus as.
Like my run today was as long as yesterday's.
Perfect. Means they were the same length. And you can modify this too. Add just for exactness, just as long as. Or almost, if it's close. Almost as long as.
Okay.
And you can even use quantities. This is powerful. He earns twice as much as his brother. Or, this recipe needs half as much sugar. It gives a precise ratio within that as structure.
Wow. Okay, so twice as fast as, 3 times as expensive as. Very specific.
Very specific. And for the negative, showing something doesn't reach the same level. It's not as
Like the source mentioned, older athletes may not be as fast as their younger counterparts.
Exactly. It's a slightly softer, more nuanced way of saying they are slower. Very useful construction.
I really like how language can show trends or connections. Can we express gradual change using comparatives, like something increasing steadily?
Yes, absolutely. It's a neat trick. You just repeat the comparative.
Like it's getting darker and darker.
Precisely. Or the example from our sources. Athletes seem to be getting better and better each year. You feel that continuous upward trend. Or the opposite, it feels less and less likely.
Okay, that's clear. And what about showing that two things change together? Like one thing causes another to change.
The construction.
Yeah.
Very elegant. The plus comparative.
Can you give an example?
Our source had a great one. The longer athletes keep competing, the greater their chances of setting new records are. See how it links the two changes directly.
Yeah, it shows a clear correlation. Like the harder you study, the better your grades.
Exactly that. A really powerful way to express cause and effect or simultaneous change. Okay, let's talk quantities. comparing amounts of things. This is an area where mistakes are pretty common, especially between countable and uncountable nouns.
Right, the things you can count versus things you can't.
Exactly. For countable nouns, things like apples, people, metals, you use fewer for the comparative and the fewest for the superlative.
Okay, fewer metals.
Correct.
Yeah.
But for uncountable nouns like water, information, money, time, you use less for the comparative and the least for the superlative.
So less information, less time.
Precisely. Our source highlighted this. Even fewer women, countable, would run marathons years ago, and there used to be less information, uncountable, about fitness.
The classic error is using less for countable things, isn't it? Like seeing less people in a supermarket sign.
Drives grammarians crazy. It should always be fewer people. It's a key distinction.
Got it. Fewer books, less water. Can we emphasize quantity comparisons too? Like saying way more?
Yes, same modifiers we used before often work here. You can use a lot, much with uncountables, or many with countables before more or less fewer.
He's an apple.
She has many more opportunities now, or there's much less traffic on Sundays. That extra word adds emphasis.
And can you repeat more or less for quantity trends?
You can. He's making more and more money. Or we have less and less free time. It shows the continuous change in quantity.
Okay. And comparing specific amounts, again, like we did with allows, how does that work with quantities?
We use not as many as for countables and not as much as for uncountables.
So I don't have as many emails today as yesterday's.
Perfect. Or this brand doesn't have as much sugar as that one. And again, you could add those multipliers. Half, twice, 3 times.
Like the Olympics example. China won nearly twice as many silver medals as the U.S.
Exactly. Incredibly precise way to compare counted amounts. Vital for discussing stats, data, results.
And finally, we can compare the nouns themselves, right? Not just their qualities or actions, but saying one thing is like another.
Yes, using words like, the same as, or similar to.
How do those differ slightly?
Well, like often draws a vivid comparison, sometimes figurative. He runs like the wind, or she swims like a fish.
Okay.
The same as indicates identity or near identity. Our source had older athletes achieving the same degree of physical improvement as younger ones. It's a direct equivalence.
Right, identical level.
And similar to suggests shared characteristics, but not complete identity. This phone is similar to my old one, but the camera's better.
So, like, for evocative comparison, the same as for equivalence, similar to for shared features.
You got it. These help you draw connections and parallels between things themselves.
Okay, this is great. Let's pull it all together now with some concrete examples from the sources. Seeing these rules in action really helps cement them.
Absolutely. Think about the student comparing their home country to a new one. They might say people back home are not as interested in foreigners.
Using that not as a structure for a nuanced difference.
Exactly. Not uninterested, but less interested than maybe here.
Sure.
Or noting the weather is much hotter back home, using that intensifier much for emphasis.
And here, it's getting colder and colder.
Perfect use of the repeated comparative for a gradual change. These aren't forced examples. They're exactly how people naturally express these comparisons in everyday situations.
Yeah, describing experiences. And what about that Olympic medal table? That seemed like a minefield for comparison errors.
It really highlights the need for precision. The source notes the USA won the greatest number of medals.
Superlative needed, not just great.
Right. Because you're comparing them to all other countries in that specific category.
Yeah.
And China won fewer silver medals than gold medals.
Fewer, not less, because medals are countable.
Bingo. Using less there fundamentally misrepresents the type of noun. These details matter hugely for accuracy, especially with data.
It's not just pedantic grammar. It changes the facts if you get it wrong.
Totally. And the irregulars popped up too. Russia's silver count was better than China's.
Not more good. Gotta remember that irregular.
Exactly. And the final nuance. Germany won more medals overall than Japan, but Japan ranked higher. Why?
Because Japan won 2 more gold medals than Germany. The type of medal mattered more for rank.
Precisely. It shows how you need comparatives. More medals, 2 more gold medals, higher rank, to explain that complex situation accurately. You couldn't do it with just basic adjectives.
It really drives home how these structures let you analyze and explain complex information, whether it's sports stats or anything else. So we've taken quite a journey today through the world of English comparisons.
We really have. From the basics of and est, to nuances like intensifiers and est.
It's clear that mastering these isn't just about sounding correct. It's about communicating with clarity, precision, and, well, impact. Whether you're describing data, sharing experiences, or making an argument.
Absolutely. You now have a much clearer map for using comparatives and superlatives correctly. Adjectives, adverbs, quantities. Remembering those irregulars is key.
Definitely.
And knowing how words like much, slightly, or far can subtly shade your meaning. It moves you beyond just saying different to explaining how different.
So the challenge for you, the listener, is this. Next time you find yourself comparing things, maybe deciding which product is better, or explaining why one experience was less enjoyable than another, or how something is changing more and more, pause for a second.
Yeah, think consciously about the structures we've discussed. Can you use as for equality? Or maybe much or far to emphasize a big difference,
Hmm.
or perhaps fewer versus less.
See if you can apply these tools deliberately to make your point sharper, clearer, and more precise.
And maybe reflect, what specific point from our deep dive stood out most to you? Was it the irregulars, the structure, maybe the subtle power of not as dot the add as? How can you use that specific insight to fine-tune your own English, making your comparisons not just understood, but truly effective? Think about the last comparison you made. Could you express it even better now?